If you haven't seen part 1 in this series, I recommend watching that first. That video covers the first beta up to 1.6, and this video continues from there. The release of CS 1.6 on September 15, 2003, marked the beginning of what many consider to be the first golden age of Counter-Strike. The game felt great mechanically, and the competitive scene was seeing continuous growth, although it was still relatively small when compared to its size today. This created a more grassroots feel to the community. Forums like GotFrag were very active, providing a place for community discussions and sharing of popular frag movies. Local LANs were the place to be, with many of NA's most recognizable 1.6 players making a name for themselves through these smaller tournaments, as well as online leagues. Leagues like Cal and CEVO were at the center of the NACS community, giving up-and-coming players the chance to prove themselves. Many younger players today probably don't realize just how different the culture of Counter-Strike was at this time. In the professional scene, Team 3D continued as the dominant North American team going into 1.6, and their rivalry continued against the Swedish SK Gaming.
Obviously, the most famous game, the epic one, was the one where you played against Heaton and Potty and SK Gaming. Like, I've noticed over the years, these were the rivals, right? These were the ones that you wanted to meet in the big match. That really was in Counter-Strike. Like, that was like Magic Johnson against Larry Bird type scenario, right? Didn't it mean a lot to play these guys?
Oh, it was huge.
In the pre-1.6 days of Extreme 3 and early Team 3D, the North Americans were known for a more firepower-heavy, aggressive playstyle, with K-Sharp often leading the charge. As the Counter-Strike world moved into 1.6, Team 3D realized they needed to adjust to a more strategic approach to the game, which led to their pickup of Moto and Kane.
I don't know who made the introduction, but they joined us, Kane and Moto. The reason why I respected Moto so much was because he played Half-Life Deathmatch, as well as Kane, and that was at the time, in my opinion, the most skillful game possible.
Yeah,
and he was phenomenal. He has a very structured way of playing, so it's not as loose and cowboy style that we had played before, where people would play on feel and intuition. You would just figure it out on the fly. So he'd very structured, very set strats, which was actually kind of helpful. We had a lot of success with him. We won a lot of tournaments.
The release of 1.6 wasn't all good. There was one specific change that had lasting consequences for oppers like K-Sharp. In 1.5 and earlier, you could fire the op faster if you quick-switched instead of waiting for the animation to finish. So unlike today, there was an actual benefit to quick-switching, aside from resetting the scope. This was changed with the release of 1.6, where Valve nerfed this playstyle by requiring the full time between shots, whether you quick-switched or not, which is how the game is now. This had a serious effect on K-Sharp, who was known for his aggressive and flashy playstyle. This also isn't the only time Valve would need to nerf the op because of a handful of strong players. Huge thanks to Reddit user Rewinded for pointing this out to me, as I had never heard about this change. Team 3D met SK on the server at the WCG 2004 semifinals, which was one of the few top-tier events to be played on Condition Zero.
Counter-Strike, Condition Zero.
I won't talk about Condition Zero much here, but I might make a full video about it in the future. Facing Heaton and Potty with SK yet again, it was a high-stakes best-of-3 matchup for Team 3D.
Important kills, and that turned it to their advantage.
And look at K-Sharp starting us off with the op early on.
They're in a must-win now situation.
Definitely
6-2.
must-win. Like I said, this is a game point situation. Nice finger, and
no.
that is it.
Yeah, that's
AHL chiming in with the last frag. SK winning this one at 13-8, going into the second map.
After losing map 1 on Train, Team 3D bounced back to win Inferno and Dust 2 comfortably, winning the series 2-1 over SK.
Though they need this round in order to put 3 back on the defensive.
That's a good
An
start.
important kill.
And you hear the mumble starting to pick up in the crowd as K-Sharp dropping one,
there it is.
Bombs dropping another one, and it's a 5-on-3. K-Sharp dropping another one. This could be it. 3D down to their last frag. Can they get it? There it is. 3D wins. Oh my goodness. 3D advances, beating SK for the first time.
You know, ever since that one round when we saw, Moto do that huge momentum, from that point on it was a different game, and it has been all the way.
One of the highlights from this match was a now legendary 1v4 from Moto on Inferno. which in my opinion is one of the earliest graffiti-worthy plays. On this version of Inferno, a player could get boosted on top of and behind the back left corner box on what is now the A site, and once back there, they couldn't get back out. However, there was space on each side for the hidden player to look for kills.
Moto, last man standing. He is hanging out in that bomb site. Oh, a beautiful shot up there.
Oh,
Oh, he turns around and gets the shot up
He needs to hide now. He needs to hide. They can't tell him where he's at.
He's got the bomb. The bomb is actually showing.
They know, though.
Right oh, a huge diver. Oh my God, Moto 4 frags. Oh, that is so huge.
After defeating SK in the semifinals, Team 3D went on to defeat the Danish roster of the Titans 2-0 in the grand finals, securing the $50,000 first place in triple overtime, 22-20.
KK Moto with a fourth one. Oh man, it's going to be a one-on-one situation. And there. Volcano, the new acquisition, coming in huge. 3D wins the World Cyber Game 2004 Grand Finals. What a round by Moto, 4 frags.
What a great game. That was unbelievable. I love both sides. Great situations at the end. How many 1v1s did we get? It was absolutely exciting. Sweden won last time. They won the gold. 3D ended up with the silver, so they were able to get the gold here. That's a great job by 3D.
Great job. Definitely.
No, I think that's the first time it's happened in,
A long time.
yeah, many years.
Looking at Source 1.6, what do you think? Heard Summer CPL is Source. ES World Cup maybe 1.6.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
that's tough. Well, I mean, coming from a player who's played 1.6 for, years and years and years now, Source is just looking a little sketchy to me. It's, I played it a little bit. It's kind of buggy. It doesn't seem to be it doesn't seem as clean, as smooth as 1.6 is. I think it could definitely be fixed, though, because if you look at the previous versions of Counter-Strike, as it gradually evolves, it becomes, more and more polished over the years. And I think they can do the same thing with Source if you give them some time. So, who knows?
When was the last time you heard someone complain that CS2 feels worse and isn't ready for competition? Last week? Yesterday? 5 minutes ago? These thoughts are far from being unique to CS2.
Source blows my mind that people have almost kind of omitted it from Counter-Strike history. It did have some issues at launch, I don't think there's any doubt about that, which did turn a lot of the people off, because obviously if you've got an existing game that's been out for years, and it's great and everything works perfectly fine because it's been tweaked, and then you've got something new and it doesn't quite work, obviously you're going to stick to the one that you know and stick to the one that you feel is complete.
Throughout its history, whenever the release of a new version of Counter-Strike brought something new to the game, it caused the community to desperately hold on to what was familiar. Counter-Strike players are, in my opinion, some of the most stubborn people on the planet. When wireless mice were becoming mainstream, there were plenty of CS pros who refused to leave behind their wired mice. For example, in the 2022 Antwerp Major Finals, Kerrigan, Rops, and Twists were all using wired mice, 2 years after the release of the now standard Logitech G Pro Superlight.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a stigma at this point. Valorant players are definitely more open to trying to min-max their peripherals using quicker pads, lighter mice, where CS, it just seems to be very stuck in their ways, and you can't really knock it.
Here's another example. Even though we now have relatively affordable access to high refresh rate OLED monitors with motion clarity on par or better than top TN panels, most CS pros choose to stick with the tried and true Zowie TN monitors with backlight strobing, even though OLED panels look much better overall. Now, I'm not saying that being stubborn is bad. It's certainly worked out so far for the CS community, as it's one of the top esports in the world. FaZe Clan did manage to win that major with 3 out of 5 mice being wired. This does mean, however, that the community as a whole is extremely resistant to change, both inside the server and out. Any changes that might affect the look and feel of the game in the most minor way is cause for outrage. Some argue that the huge amount of freedom given to CS players through console commands causes players to worry about tiny configurations that don't really matter.
So overall, let's say you were missing something from CSGO coming into CS2, maybe setting-wise. Is there anything that you feel that you'd want?
Actually, I don't really have too many issues with the view model and with the Bob. I think we have way too many settings.
Okay.
Because if you look at the other games, they don't have all these crazy
options. He's a Valve sympathizer over here. I see.
I mean, I think we're just used to it, so that's why we're missing it. But I think in general, we don't really need way too many crazy settings. I feel like we can have everyone could use something similar.
This stubborn community mindset was clearly visible at the release of Counter-Strike Source. CS Source was released in October 2004, only 1 year after the official 1.6 launch. Of course, 1.6 was the result of several iterations building off of 1.0's release in 2000. But when you compare the releases of these two games relative to the gaps between Source, Go, and CS2, these two games were pretty close together. The transition from the Gold Source engine of 1.6 to Source brought a completely new feel to movement and gun mechanics, which was cause for the most common complaint. The new game felt clunky and less precise when compared to the fine-tuned mechanics of 1.6. The community was divided between 1.6 and Source. However, most pros and casual players preferred 1.6, keeping the original game on the throne up until the release of Global Offensive in 2012, thus continuing the age of 1.6 while Source was left on the sidelines. The only time Source was seen on the main stage was for the Championship Gaming Series, or CGS, which we'll talk about more later. The era of Team 3D contending at the highest level of international Counter-Strike came to an end with their win at the World Cyber Games 2005, which was their final S-tier trophy. K-Sharp left the team in March of 2006, but would later return to play in the CGS. Rambo left to join Complexity in January of 2007, where he would find himself competing against K-Sharp in the CGS. The decline of Team 3D around 2005 gave room for more competition among North American teams. Complexity, founded by Jason Lake, was a strong team at this time, even before Rambo joined in 2007. They hit their 1.6 peak with wins at ESWC 2005 and CPL Summer 2006, both of which are considered majors with a lowercase m. This is before the official Valve-sanctioned majors with a capital M. Arguably, the most notable player in Complexity at this time was Fraud, who is now one of the most recognized North American names of the era. Despite the handful of strong results from Complexity, from around 2007 to the end of 1.6, North American Counter-Strike had a significant fall-off on the international stage. There were some good teams that showed strong domestic results, but they weren't at the same level at international tournaments when compared to the previous results of Team 3D and Complexity.
Now all on Khan, the captain for Fnatic, as he starts to work his way into this bomb site. He's up against 4 from Navi. Surely they're going to kill him, and Navi will win the Intel Extreme Masters Season 4 for Counter-Strike 1.6.
Teams like Fnatic, SK, and towards the end of 1.6, Navi, were dominating the international scene. There is some explanation for this. It's a very strange story that some say deserves to be burned and forgotten. In 2007, the ex-president of Fox Sports, David Hill, moved to DirecTV, where he had a vision, in part due to the influence of his grandchildren. This vision was of esports, and the millions of dollars it could make him and DirecTV. The idea was to turn esports into a league created in a similar format to traditional sports. This was called the Championship Gaming Series, or the CGS. Teams were based on cities with names like Carolina Core, Dallas Venom, and New York 3D, who were actually the players from Team 3D. There was a draft for the teams.
Complexity LA has the second pick of the 5th round. And they select from FIFA 07. Felipe Stoyne. Cregan.
Players signed contracts for huge salaries, and most importantly, players on CGS teams were locked into playing exclusively in CGS tournaments. This meant no more CPLs or WCGs for names like De Bears, Rambo, and Fraud. This league was also played on CS Source instead of 1.6, even though at this point 1.6 was firmly established as the more competitive title. This decision was made because the graphics of Source looked better for TV.
Counter-Strike Source is a first-person shooter that pits 2 5-man teams against each other. A team of terrorists versus a team of counter-terrorists. Each round, the terrorist goal is to plant and detonate a bomb. The counter-terrorist goal is to defuse their bomb. Another effective way to win the round is for either team to eradicate all members of the opposite team. The game is split into 2 halves consisting of 9 rounds each, and each round lasts 80 seconds. At halftime, the terrorist and counter-terrorist teams switch roles. The first team to win 10 rounds wins the game, but every winning round counts as 1 point towards the team's match total.
In spite of DirecTV's seemingly endless amounts of money that they were throwing at this project, the CGS found its end in November 2008 after only 2 seasons, in large part due to the global recession. The CGS was worldwide, and I would argue that although its effects were negative everywhere, it was most detrimental to North America. This is where the most CGS teams were based, and also where the highest share of top players for the region were being held captive by DirecTV. The negative effects of the CGS would be felt for years to come. One effect being inflated salaries that normal organizations and tournaments couldn't compete with, especially during the 2008 recession. This was a large factor leading to the retirement of a significant number of professional players after the collapse of the CGS. This also caused other mainstream networks to see esports as a risky investment. For the remainder of 1.6's lifespan until the release of Global Offensive, North America was in a state of recovery from the aftermath of the CGS.
2008, the financial crisis.
Yeah, that's what shut the CGS down.
Yeah, Dinko, we woke up and the website was down and Henry and I were made redundant. Why do you have to bring it up every day?
Yeah, it's trauma bad.
How much redundancy was it though? Did you get a good deal?
0.
There was no payout.
Didn't even get our last paycheck.
Oh.
Scott Valencia stole $1 million and took off, mate.
Well, at least you got to see Kim Kardashian in real life.
It's true, we did.
I didn't. I wasn't there.
You weren't there?
Oh, well.
I saw her with my own 2 eyes.
I didn't see her. I didn't meet any celebs.
If you'd like to see a more in-depth video about the absolute disaster of the CGS, let me know in the comments.
Last man standing, beautiful shot. Oh my God, nicely done. Rambo picking up that op, and now it's all over Volcano right now. Oh my God, he off Volcano too. Rambo picks up the op and takes 3 down. You don't typically see Rambo picking up an op in the middle of a round.
One team who saw strong domestic results after the collapse of the CGS was Evil Geniuses, particularly after their signing of a young gamer by the name of Jordan Nothing Gilbert. Going into the later stages of 1.6's lifespan, Nothing went from being a new up-and-comer to a well-established top American fragger.
I grew up in, the CS 1.16 with Nothing. Like, I remember him just terrorizing that scene and everyone thinking he was cheating. I remember Nothing but
HLTV ranked him 11th in their 2010 top 20 players list. He was known for his crazy wallbangs, which were a trademark of 1.6, and for his positive attitude that helped keep the vibes high in each of his teams.
Nothing provided a lot of the relief, the humor relief, within
He's
the
kind
team.
of a naturally happy-go-lucky person, and he's always got it's always vibing, right?
I thought Nothing was super important to keeping the emotional level of the team balanced.
Nothing's career continued strong through the end of 1.6. And going into CSGO, he would be considered one of the most culturally impactful figures in North America during his time with Cloud9.
I went pro in 2008, but it went...
Now, how do you go pro? Do you have to join a league, or you have to pay for anything, sign up for stuff?
Well, there is a process. It's not a conventional one like sports. There's no coaches in esports. Well, recently there are, but
there's coaches
recently, and we'll get into that. In this case, there's I play in a league called ESEA. They have the Open Division, Intermediate, Main, Premier, Invite. If you're an Invite, you're really the only people that can get paid to play by companies. So when I say I went pro back in 2008, it's because I joined up a contract with an organization called Evil Geniuses, which is my agency for an actor. And they had sponsors from Intel, Newegg, a bunch of peripheral companies for my gear, and they pay me to fly to the tournaments, and I market them like I'm a NASCAR car. I have their logos all over them. I tell people why their gear is good, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow. Okay. So now back to the counterstrike.
This is the end of part 2. Thank you all for watching. I've loved making this series so far, and I look forward to continuing it. The next part will be a banger. We're getting into CSGO, skins, iBuyPower, and more, so make sure you're subscribed and part 3 will be out soon.